Hello, everyone. If you're a non native English speaker and you sometimes struggle to follow along as you listen to native or native level speakers speaking English, or if sometimes you struggle to pronounce English words yourself, this is for you. This is the fourth of a four-part series on improving English pronunciation for non native English speakers. In the previous videos, we looked at an overview of things that you should know as a non-native English speaker concerning pronunciation, so that it's not as much of a struggle as you listen to English as it's spoken in natural everyday conversations. We also looked at how to use elision and assimilation, and today we're going to be looking at how to use insertion of subtle sounds in speaking English smoothly. So the hope is that not only will you better understand what you hear when you listen to English speakers speaking with each other or to you, but that you will also pronounce your words in a way that's more natural sounding yourself. Here goes. Insertion. 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 Insertion is essentially the adding in of subtle sounds to help us to glide from one sound to another when we speak. So, if I were to present to you a phrase or a sentence in citation form where I say each word clearly and individually, that would sound different from connected speech, which is what we use in natural everyday conversations. The words are joined. There's a rhythm and a natural pace to what we say. Okay, so when we talk about insertion, we're talking about those subtle sounds that we use to help us to glide from one sound to another, whether within a word or between words. And so rather than sounding like a robot, you would sound more human and natural. We're going to be looking at some examples, and I hope that you will not become overwhelmed. It's not for you to remember each example. It's not for you to walk around with a library of examples in your head. What I want to do is to illustrate to you what is happening in the background as you listen to everyday conversations that are spoken in English. So if you understand what's going on in the background, then it's not going to be as hard to keep up when you listen to it in natural everyday interaction. Before we look at the examples, I want to point out that insertion of sounds into speech is also sometimes referred to as the usage of linking sounds, otherwise known as glides. There is also a particular sound we sometimes insert in speech that is called an intrusive sound. We will look at what that particular sound is later. Variations of that sound are called intrusive sounds. The question you may be asking is, what are the linking sounds? The good news is that there are few of them. They are the w sound, which is the same sound you hear when you say words such as water and we, or ask questions like when, or where, or why. Then there is the y sound, which is the same sound you hear when you say words such as yellow, or yes, or you. Then there is a third sound that we sometimes insert into our speech. It is the R sound. The degree to which someone will include R sounds will depend on their accent. It's heavily influenced by a person's accent. However, this will not be our focus in this immediate presentation. We're going to be focusing on the first two, the W sound and the Y sound. And here I have represented the W sound and Y sound, not only with the letters that usually carry that sound, but with their symbolic sound representations, or in other words, the phonemic script. that is used in the International Phonetic Alphabet. It's important to note that we insert sounds both within words and between words. When we talk about the insertion of subtle sounds within words, it's important to note that this can happen between two vowel sounds or a consonant and a vowel sound. Let's now look at some examples of words that we use that include the insertion of these subtle sounds. When we say the word doing, we don't say doing, we say doing. In that word, there is the insertion of a subtle w sound. Doing, doing, doing. The same is true for the word opinion. We don't say opinion, we say opinion. There is a subtle y sound. Opinion, yon, opinion. And now for examples of how we insert these subtle sounds between a consonant and a vowel before we looked at inserting these sounds between vowels or vowel sounds. Now let's look at what it sounds like when we insert these subtle sounds between a consonant and vowel sound. The word regular, we don't say regular, we say regular, regular, regular. So that's how these subtle sounds are inserted within words. Remember, the linking sounds or glides are the w sound and the y sound. Let's now look at examples of how these sounds are inserted between words. When we're looking at what happens between words, it could be that we insert linking sounds between a word that has a vowel sound ending and a following word that has a vowel sound beginning. Or we could be inserting the linking sound between a word that has a consonant sound ending and a following word that has a vowel sound beginning. The sound you use will depend on the sound you're already making and then the one you're moving onto. Remember, the purpose of linking sounds is to help you not to sound fragmented or robotic, but to sound human-like, natural, smooth, to glide from one sound to another. So it typically is a sound that is similar to the sound you're trying to move away from and into the sound you're trying to move into. So examples of inserting linking sounds between words looks like this. Let's start by looking at the insertion of w sounds. The w sound is usually inserted after oo, such as in you and I. You and I. You and I would become in connected speech with the insertion of the w sound, you and I, you and I, you and I. And based on what we learned about elision, it is possible that a variation of you and I would be you and I, where the D is elided and we end up with you and I. The w sound also appears after o and u, as in go and into. So the example we look at is go into it. That would become in connected speech with the insertion of a w sound, go into it. Go into it. Go into it. The last example we look at is the insertion of the w sound after ow, the sound ow. The example we look at is plow on, plow on. Plow on would become plow on. Plow on would become plow on. Let's now look at the insertion of the y sound. And here I'm not using the letter Y that usually makes the y sound, I'm using the sound symbol instead, which is J. The phonemic script for the y sound is the letter J. So this y sound is usually inserted after sounds such as E, as in me. In this example, we look at me and you. Rather than saying me and you, we would say in connected speech, me and you, me and you. Subtle y, me and you. And again, a variation of this, if we were to elide the D at the end of and, it would sound like me and you, me and you, me and you. The y sound is also inserted after the I sound. So in this example, we'll look at carry out. Carry out. Carry out would become, in connected speech, carry out. Carry out. Carry out. Carry out. The y sound may also be inserted after the vowel sound A. In this example, we will look at convey it for me. In connected speech, that would sound like convey it for me. Convey it for me. As opposed to convey it for me. Convey it for me. So there's a glide between convey and it. Convey it for me. And I have for you 2 more examples before we wrap this presentation up. The y sound may be introduced after the vowel sound I, as in come by after the call. Come by after the call in connected speech would sound like come by after the call. Come by after the call. And finally, the y sound may be inserted after the vowel sound oi. So the example we look at is the boy and the girl walked. The boy and girl walked. The boy and girl would become, in connected speech, the boy and girl. The boy and girl. The boy and girl. As opposed to the boy and girl. These examples have shown that when we're speaking in natural everyday conversations, there is a joining of words that helps us to move beyond sounding like robots and to move into smooth speech production so we sound more natural. So the next time you listen to native or native level speakers, expect them to use the insertion of subtle sounds to help them to glide from one sound to another, whether within a word or between words, while they are speaking. It's also perfectly okay to use insertion of these subtle sounds as well to sound more natural when speaking English too. Now, as always, before I go, I want to stop to take the time to let you know that as a non-native English speaker, learning English can be so much fun. It can be enjoyable. There are parts of it that are not as exciting, admittedly, but life is what you make it. And if you have the right view of it, then you will experience it differently. And so I'm happy that I get to be the person who is there with you along the way to tell you you can do it. It's not that hard. It is absolutely perfectly doable, and you've got this. You already have the ability to acquire and to understand information, and you are also able to apply it when the time comes. So I just want to remind you that all you have to do is stay at it. And it's only by doing that that you're going to become better at it. All right, so of course, I'm going to remind you to practice every opportunity you get. Practice on your pillow, practice on your friends, practice on your relatives, practice on whomever will give you just a few seconds of audience. Just practice all the time. keep at it, and I know that you will get better at it over time. Do not be afraid to make mistakes, as I have. And it's a part of the learning process. Embrace that. Don't shy away from it. Don't let it diminish your confidence. You're human after all. And I would much rather interact with a human being that is relatable than a machine that is not relatable. All right, so just want to wish you well in your continuous English learning journey, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, this is Marsha. This is English on a Platter. It was my pleasure to serve you. Until next time, bye bye.